so loud. Welcome to the Ask A Matchmaker podcast. I'm your host, Matchmaker Maria. I am a fourth generation matchmaker. You know who else is a fourth generation matchmaker? Chrisoula.
Hi.
You know, everywhere we go this past week, people are like, are you sisters? And we've already done this last time. Like, are you two sisters? Whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I think it's because I straightened my hair.
You know what's funny is that I never dyed my hair until like 2 years ago. And it seems like we just dyed our hair the same color. Unbeknownst to us. Like, I didn't know you were going to dye your hair that color.
Oh, done on number 4? Yeah.
Yeah, I used to do it later. But yeah.
Yeah. And
I just haven't perfected the wing liner yet.
How did Bustle Media put it? I got profiled in Bustle a couple weeks ago.
Wing lined to perfection or something like that. I might be butchering that.
It was like a precise cat eye. I don't know. I have to.
I bought the stamp thing that you told me, and it does not work for me.
On Amazon there are stamp wings for people who can't do it with a wand free.
Managed to mess that up too, so I don't know.
That's crazy how you did. You have to just practice. Well, anyway, let's talk about that generational thing. As you know, I'm right now trying to submit my final manuscript for my book.
Yeah.
And in chapter 2, I talk about the family.
Our family?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I talk about like what makes us a generational matchmaker.
Yeah.
And I talk a lot about our grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk a lot about how, dating pre-1980 was predominantly through matchmakers in Greece. And it's not like the matchmaker that you see me or the one you see, or you or the one you see on Netflix. It was, somebody who was profoundly good at collecting gossip, community meddling.
We call those women kirakatines.
Which is someone who gossips.
Yeah.
And, it was like a lot of matchmaking was also like parental involvement.
Yeah.
So I started asking like Mama and Baba, like, how did your parents meet, to write the book? And I kind of know the stories, but it's like, my grandfather was like, I need a wife. This man was a very respected man in the community, this other man. And our grandmother's dad. And he's like, you have a daughter? And he's like, well, you're hardworking. You can have her.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happened with my father-in-law. Like, he's like, all right, I'm ready to get married. He goes to Greece. I mean, him and my mother-in-law are from the same island, of the same village from an island.
But he was in America for a few years.
He was in America working, and then he's like, all right, ready to get married. He goes to the village, and he's like, her. And 3 months later, they're married, and then a month later, she moves for the first time ever to America. And I think I think
in writing the book, I don't think people realize like how all-encompassing matchmaking can be. Like, it's not just like someone visualizing like an old lady in a smoky, I don't know why, and like a smoky living room, like collecting cards of people. It's not like that. It's a parental meddling. Yeah. And sometimes you have the person who knows everyone in the community who's like, they'll go to them and be like, well, this person's coming to speak to my daughter. What do you think? Or who else do you think we should be considering?
Right.
Like, it was very much a community leader in every single village.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just like, oh, this one person in Athens. It was across. And in the book, I do talk about how that collapsed in 1980. But in doing the research for the book, I asked even my in-laws like how they met. And again, that was parental matchmaking. My father-in-law was getting his PhD in like Germany. And he was back in Crete having a coffee with friends. And he saw this beautiful woman. And he asked around, he's like, who's that? And he goes, oh, that's the village, the teacher of the village's daughter. And, my father-in-law is getting a PhD in education. He's like, oh, and they're like, and she's a teacher. Oh, like, and then he goes back to his mom and he's like, I want to meet her. And so what does my husband's grandmother do? She's starting to call people and be like, okay, what do we think of this man? And she's not even talking about like the man, like she's talking about like the man who's the father of my mother-in-law.
Yeah.
I'm getting it really confused now. But she calls like find out about the family and then she's like, okay, is the woman single? And she is. And so, there's like this back and forth exchange, and word on the street is that my mother-in-law did not want to meet him. Like she didn't want to meet her now husband until her father shared with her that my father-in-law had a car.
Oh, that changes everything.
It does. So she's like, fine, I'll meet him. And then like a few months later, they were married.
Well, well, I live in Greece. And so, when Maria and I talk to strangers or when we meet people, everybody's so fascinated by matchmaking. And they think it's so cool. And they think
in Greece.
In Greece. Well, yeah, in Greece. They're like, what do you do? And they always want to learn more. And so I don't like being the center of attention, but I always find myself the center of attention and everybody's like listening in. And I feel like weird. Like you would probably thrive in that environment.
Yeah.
But for me, I talk about what we do, the struggles of some clients, what it is that they're looking for and all that. And then they're always like, matchmakers should come to Greece. You guys should start a branch here. And I'm like, what you're saying. And in the 80s, it kind of collapsed this idea of matchmaking. It's because people were meeting people in a different way.
Right.
And so
I don't want to give away the whole book. If you want to learn why matchmaking in New York if you want to learn why matchmaking collapsed in Greece in 1980, you're just going to have to wait a year.
well, what I want to say is that people by and large, big cities are, different, but by and large, people meet their significant other through mutual friends. And so, and I always test it because I'm like, oh, let me see if this is real. So every single person that I've met and I talk to them, like, how'd you meet your spouse? And they're like, oh, we had mutual friends.
Right.
And so it's like, do you see like, and I think we were talking about it the other day, how even if we wanted to open up a branch.
We've talked about it. I mean, so by the time this recording comes out, Agape Match will have celebrated its 15-year anniversary.
Right.
And don't think for a second that we didn't think about starting a Greek branch in 2012. We looked at it again in 2014.
Yeah.
We looked at it last in, I think, 2020. And every single time it always comes back to like, it sounds fascinating. And it is fascinating, right?
Yeah.
But the dating culture in Greece is so fundamentally different than the States.
It's so different.
And like one of the biggest ones too that I don't think a lot of people, especially Greek Americans, don't believe in is like Greek people in Greece are way more progressive than people in America. Like even Americans, like what is considered leftist or progressive in America would be considered conservative in Greece.
Yeah, 100%. And so I think we get these questions all the time. I mean, you do every month, every week about like, when do I tell somebody that I am like, maybe right leaning or left leaning? Like, when does this come in? And when you're in this type of culture where most people in your group, at least, are lean towards the same political leanings as you, and you meet your significant other through that environment, you tend to already know how they talk about these things.
Yeah, but also like the things that are politics in the States are not political in Greece. For instance, like abortion in Greece is treated as just healthcare, right? There's, there was a very progressive government that came out in 1981. It gave women, equal pay, voting, abortion, and it's not even called abortion rights. They're just called healthcare rights, right? And it's like, it's funny. Our friend, our close girlfriend, Amalia, she was saying like the thing that shocks her when she's in the States is that American daters, they always have to have a conversation about the conversation. Yeah. So for instance, like if you were to get pregnant and you don't want to be pregnant, in America, they would say stuff like, well, how do you feel about abortion?
Yeah.
So you're having a conversation before you're even having a conversation.
You're talking about a scenario that hasn't even happened yet and might have happened. What would we do? And how would we feel? And all this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And in Greece, where almost all gynecologists just perform healthcare.
Was it talking to you or was it talking to my husband? Literally like a week ago, he was saying Greece has the highest rates of abortion in all of Europe.
Yeah, I think you were talking to me.
Oh, it was you? And because of that, because it's not seen as this taboo thing. It's seen as, like healthcare, maybe we can't do this. And then, and then
also that healthcare, just to kind of like make that point here, right? Like nobody talks about it. Like it's not even a conversation in dating. It's like, are we ready to have a kid? No. Can we afford a kid? No. Okay, then, then this is an option. And I think what makes it really different, I believe Greece has like a 12-week a ban.
Mm-hmm.
But the 12 weeks in Greece are very different than the 12 weeks in a lot of states in America. So for instance, in Greece, there's no one giving you an ultrasound ahead of time. There's no one giving you a consult ahead of time. There's no 2-day waiting period. It's like you can just walk into any hospital and be like, I don't want to be pregnant.
Yeah. I mean, there's some other stuff that's not.
And then that's just like one thing, right?
Yeah.
Like what I'm trying to say is that like I feel like the things that keep us heavily divided in the States, even if you were to talk to two Jewish people right now, two Jewish singles dating, the things that divide them, they're not the same things that people in Greece get divided over. Like people can definitely be in relationships with people who don't vote the same with them because a lot of moral disagreements have already been settled.
Right. I mean, Maria and I and, other people, and Lucinda and on the team and Anna Maria now, are the Agape team at least. We meet a lot of women. We meet
about like 20 women a week.
And so, and ever since Roe v. Wade, the deal was overturned. The deal breaker is just he needs to believe in women's rights. He needs to believe in women's choice. He needs to, listen, we're New York City based matchmakers. The majority of the matches that we meet are already in the tri-state area. And so this tends to be a more socially liberal.
But it's interesting that they feel the need to even tell us that.
Deal breakers used to be like no smoking.
Yeah.
Or
I talked about this a couple of weeks ago on a previous episode.
Yeah.
But like to kind of go back to like why we can't start a Greek branch, even though you live there. And, I'm there for 2 months a year is I think just culturally, it's just not, and it's not, I think a lot of people who come to us, they're really exhausted swiping.
Yes, it's twofold. They're exhausted swiping. Well, it's multi-leveled, but if they're doing online dating, they're exhausted by online dating or they've become humbled by online dating. And other layers, like they lead a very busy life. And what we always say is they outsource this to us.
Right.
Just like they would outsource maybe meals to be delivered to their home because they're busy.
But I feel like if you go to Greece or any other Balkan country, you see that there's just such a community aspect. Like there's just such a massive investment in friendships. And I think that you're bound to meet someone.
Right. And we always say it too, right? Like if you meet somebody through a friend, then this is not always the case, obviously, but tends to be more accountability. So if he ghosts you, your mutual friend's going to be like, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you? Or he will finally, or the mutual friend will let you know, like, hey man, like, this and this happened.
You're being a dick.
Yeah. You're being a dick and I'm sorry for this guy, whatever. But I think at another level, it also has to do with, I don't know if you want me to, but like it's hard to get into specific types of economic ladders in the Greek culture. So it's hard to insulate.
And not in Greek culture, in Greek society.
In Greek society. So like, I could be friends with somebody at, Goldman Sachs that makes $1 million and that's like not anything here. Right. But there's a very interesting economic.
There's bubbles.
And they date within their bubbles.
Like what we mean is like there's like, I feel like in Greece you could see that there's like a social circle based on, let's say, your economic status
or your political status.
I mean,
your family is in politics. Love the Mitsotakis, the prime minister. He's
like third generation
politics. His sister was his nephew was the mayor of Athens. Like they're not dating anybody outside of that bubble. They're all dating within each other with each other. And so I think that's another layer that people don't really talk about, but it's very much there. And so if you are from that economic status, you don't know about government programs that are provided to most Greeks.
You might not even be aware.
You might not even be aware that exists. That you can receive a program to put your child into, like what is it called here? You could receive
like a stipend,
like a stipend to send your child to daycare, which it flows into the.
Yeah, so they're not aware of like the struggles of.
Because for them, they could just pay full price. What's it matter to them? I mean, they don't qualify anyway, but most people qualify because they don't make enough money.
Right.
So they get a stipend to send their kid to school. Which
what we're
then,
saying is that like I
you
think
know-
the people that are in that sphere, they're the what's like I think it was like the 4%, and then
Yeah.
that 4% of the population's in that status, and they all just date within each other.
the reason I'm saying this, and the reason I'm bringing up this economic status, is that if we brought matchmaking to Greece, likely those would be the people that would be able to afford matchmaking. And so, you know, when you kind of bring it all into context, it's harder to go
and
there.
even okay, so fine, and to talk about that, right? Like even if that person in that bubble were to hire us, that bubble is so hard to infiltrate.
Yes.
That I have no access to it there.
No access to it. I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Like I know a few people that are from that bubble that live in the States. I was actually just at one of their houses for a fundraiser. You know, like they're billionaires. And I was just like, it was a really nice event. I also at the same time felt like I felt limited.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain it, but I just felt like there was like a massive divide of like how I can interact with people. Like they felt they felt higher somehow.
Yeah, no, they felt just inaccessible. Is that the word? Like they just.
I'm like standing right next to him. I'm having a conversation with him.
Yeah.
But I know we're not connecting authentically.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, you know, have a nice Easter.
Yeah.
Like,
and so I think these things play the how people meet people, but also this other part of like the economic
what
status.
our job is as matchmakers is to collect as many bubbles, collect as many social circles as possible so that you can always, you know, meet new people that you could possibly match for your clients or even like matching across people, right?
Yeah.
But there are some, it's kind of like people who might go to like a Swiss boarding school. Like I wouldn't even know where to begin in having an authentic connection.
It's hard. It's hard because
and a lot of these people went to Swiss boarding school, so I'm not like.
Look, we have clients right now that are multimillionaires, and having somebody that also makes millions of dollars that's not something that they care about.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to ensure that you are dating somebody that you're a values match, and so you know, she might be wonderful, and I'm meeting somebody, and it's like at the end I find that. That's why we spend time with them. That's why we vet them, so that by the end of the call, they might say one key word that I'm like, oh, you're not a values match at all. Lucinda, while we were coming here, Lucinda was like, oh, I met somebody for this client, and not a match at all.
Right.
And it's probably these personality, values based, all these things that play a part. And so, you know, yeah, I think it's multi-layered. It's so many variables to consider.
What I always tell people, it's like
this is not as easy as you think.
Yeah. What I always tell people in Greece, whenever I visit, and of course I know you say this too, it's like it's not a no. It's just we're still having that conversation on if we would ever expand there. Yeah. Because I do like we get featured on the media there, but it's like.
Yeah, I mean,
and the perception of what we do is like wild. Like I was interviewed by like that morning show
on Mega, yeah,
and.
I'm just remembering what happened before like, that you did that, and then
and it was like to me that interview was I actually had to correct them on the air because they kept insisting on like, you know, what kind of person would even hire you, and I'm like, why are you talking to me in that like it was just so out of bounds.
Yeah,
and this was like live.
Yeah, I remember it. And you know, but the feedback was like,
oh, the feedback
you did
was
so good,
positive.
Maria. I'm so glad that you spoke back to them. Because, like, you know, you see these media figures
every day. They like bulldoze over you. And I was just like, it was weird because they all, I mean, I'm assuming this is all across Southern Europe. And it's like the talking heads of morning shows, they all just talk at the same time.
Yeah.
And they're all coming up with their own assumptions of like what I do. And I'm just like, listen, there are people that need this because their social circle is what it is. Like I always think about like we've had a couple of NFL players.
Yeah.
And they're to them it's always been, look, I just want to meet a really nice woman.
Yeah.
Who wants to grow a family and maybe run a foundation with me.
Yeah.
You know,
mean, that's a trajectory, right?
Right? Yeah. And it's
or,
like,
you know,
but that's what they want, right? They want someone who's like going to be entrepreneurial and like understand how to manage this.
And I think another part is to feel to be a secure person.
And but when I
Knowing,
tell
yeah,
people that in Greece, like, we get athletes, they're like, oh, come on, like this athlete just couldn't go into a bar and meet someone.
like
And
yes,
I'm
he's done
like,
that already,
they've
and
done
it's not
that.
working.
It's not working. Now instead, like it's like, well, listen, if I marry the wrong person, I could lose $20 million. Or I could just invest in this, team. And like, like we get women to sign when it's like that high level, we have to get people to sign NDAs.
Yeah, or what we do is we put like a certain like a code name, and then when you meet them, then you realize who they are,
Like,
and you're like,
oh,
oh, okay,
play for this
cool.
team. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and we tell them ahead of time, like this is a person that is is here. Sometimes they figure it
His body
out.
type is athletic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he's an
Yeah.
athlete. You
Yeah.
might know him, you might not know him. If somebody
Yeah.
introduced me to an athlete, I would know nobody.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Well, we've got a call-in question, and I'd love to take that. Welcome to the Ask A Matchmaker hotline. How can we help you?
Hi. So I have been dating my boyfriend for 2 years. We've been official for like 1.5 years. But we met like April 2022. And I love him. He's a really sweet guy. But I guess the main thing that I have been struggling for our entire relationship is finances. Specifically, he doesn't have the best job, and like that's okay. I know he's trying really hard and stuff, but I've just ended up bleeding a lot of money into the relationship that is turning me very resentful and kind of bitter. And I know that, on the one hand, it's like I'm freely offering money. Like I've taken him on multiple vacations, like full on vacations, taking him on day trips, weekend trips, because I like to do that stuff. But
Wait,
it's just reached a point.
are you paying for like the whole trip?
The whole trip.
How old is this person?
He's 40.
Thoughts? Questions?
Well, she has more to the career.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it goes on and on. But basically, in like January of this year, I was like, you know what? That's it. Like, I'm kind of cutting off the relationship as far as like doing trips or anything like that. I don't want to pay for dinners anymore. I'm trying to save money. But it's brought, our relationship just isn't as fun anymore because we're not going out and doing anything. And he's a little bit resentful. Like I'm planning trips with friends and he'll make snarky comments about me not saving money because I told him I wasn't going to do trips with him. And he's like, okay, well, you said you weren't going to do any trips, but now you're planning a trip to London with your friend. And so I guess the real thing that's gotten to the point is, I think a few days ago, he sent me a long text saying that, as soon as he gets a good job, he's ready to propose and marry me. And I'm like, I don't want to combine finances with you until I know you're steady. And I don't think that you getting a job is the magic answer to solving these financial questions that I
You
have.
even pay for dinners?
Oh, yeah.
When was the
Sometimes
last
we
time
pay.
he took you on a date? No, when was the last time he paid for you to go out?
I think like 2 weeks ago, he paid for breakfast.
What does that mean? Like Starbucks?
Like
IHOP?
a diner.
A diner, yeah.
Shit. Like I just think about what culture does he belong to, a culture, or is he like what is this person?
No, he doesn't. I mean, he's just not had, I guess like he did really well, he says, during his 20s, but then he went through a divorce in his early 30s that devastated him financially.
Does he have kids?
He does have a child, yeah.
Oh, okay. Sounds like he can't afford to date you. And not just you, like anyone. Go ahead. What are you going to say, Chrisoula?
Look, I've been there where maybe I was making a little bit more than my husband, but it was a different. I mean, we were combined. We had this conversation, and
You were married.
we were married, and then he was doing better. Eventually, he was making much more than me. And then I stopped working for a little bit with my son. And you know what it is? It's like I think about it, and I'm saying, I know you want to go on trips because you should. Like, you do that now. Do it now before you can't, right? But I just remember when we were tight, we didn't go anywhere. And we couldn't afford to go anywhere. And it's really shocking to me that he just continued to allow you to just foot the bill.
They're not married.
Yeah, but they would go on trips, and she would foot the whole trip. For every single trip.
So basically, he shouldn't be traveling.
No, he shouldn't be traveling. Why is the caller doing all of this?
Right.
And he's not contributing at all.
Right.
And then you're getting, and it's obviously it's projection here, because he certainly feels insecure about where he is right now, and that's why he's projecting on the insecurity to you and making you feel bad for wanting to go on a trip with your friends, as you should. It's I just remember both of us not being in a good place, and it didn't cross our minds to put money towards a trip if we couldn't afford it.
Yeah, but the difference here, though, is you're talking about being married with combined incomes, and she's in a relationship, not combined incomes. She is making an income. Look, she wants to, participate in the wealth that she has created for herself by taking herself on trips. And, and if she wanted to go on a trip with a friend, that friend would be contributing in their own budget. They would say, hey, caller, I know you want to go to London. I want to go to London too. I can't stay at a 4-star hotel. I could stay at a 3-star, and you would live within that budget. This person can't even participate in those activities with you.
He's not participating, and he's not adding to that. And so it's all on her, which probably puts a lot of pressure on her to make this count.
Right.
It better be the best trip ever if I'm the one who's putting all the money in it.
Right.
But and he's not even. It sounds like to me. For me, if I was him, I would be like, I can't. Like, I don't want you to do this. I would feel bad.
Right.
Like, I felt bad when mom and dad would pay for our tickets to go to Greece in the summer, and so me and you, we felt bad, and we would work.
Are you talking about in high school?
Yeah, we would work in high school to afford our tickets.
This work ethic. Oof.
And so, you know what I'm saying? And so, and I just, it's just adding another goalpost. Once I get that job, then we can be good. But you don't even know that.
Right.
And it hasn't even happened yet.
I really don't like that he's acting weird just because you're going to London with friends. That's also jealousy.
Yeah. And I really hope, like, I just think about, what is it going to look like the day before you leave between you two? Is it, so then,
he's probably going to pick a fight.
So like, I hope he doesn't, but like, if he's already kind of making you feel bad and making you feel weird about it, then it's already affecting your perception of the trip that hasn't happened yet, right? Because
but what I'm hearing is, though, forget the trips, right? He's not even taking her out to dinner. Like, and I think if anyone is listening, someone might say, well, would you say that to a woman who's not working, who's dating a man that pays for everything? And usually for a lot of people, that scenario is, I am married, and that person might be a stay-at-home mom, right? Which means that she's actually providing unpaid labor. It's not, we don't even have an equivalent, right? If this in another relationship, right? Like, where a man might be paying for it. I don't know. I just feel like
I think it's this. I would have the same reaction, because the caller is feeling resentment.
Right.
It would be different, and she's like, I am good and everything's great and I'm happy to do this. And she was initially happy to do it, but then eventually resentment started to kick in because he's not contributing at all. And so if there was a man saying this and he's saying the same things, I would probably have the same reaction here, because the key word here is resentment.
Can I ask you another question, just to put a bow on this really quick? When you're out to dinner and you're paying, do you slip him the credit card in private so it looks like he's paying?
Oh, no way.
Okay.
No, it's on me.
It's
and I'm
still
going to
on
show
you.
it's on
Yeah.
me.
I don't know. Like, I feel like this person cannot afford to date. Not just you. He cannot afford to date. Just because you are single, it does not mean that you have the privilege to date people. Like, to date is to participate in an activity that costs something. And it doesn't have to be expensive, right? You can do things that are more affordable. But that is the social contract of dating.
I think caller. I think there's also it seems to be a very different lifestyles that you have because you enjoy doing the things that you can afford and want to do, and he cannot. And so there's a lifestyle difference here, and it sounds like even if it wasn't the finances, it would be something else.
Well, I have one last question. Have you ever lent him money?
I have lent him money. I lent him money this week because he doesn't have a car and he couldn't get into work. So I lent him money for Uber and for lunch because.
So that's what I'm saying. Like you mentioned.
You're his mom.
You mentioned before
You're
that
his mom.
Well, you mentioned before that since you've stopped doing because you can afford it, right? Since you've stopped doing activities, since you've stopped taking some vacations or something, the relationship is a little bit.
Why doesn't he have a car?
Well, I just found out. So he told me before that he had a car like 2 years ago when we first started dating. And he said it did have a flaw with it. Like it would stop, like the engine would shut down while you're driving it in the middle of the street. So he told me that was the reason the dealership took it back because it had a fatal flaw. But I just found out 2 weeks ago that it was actually repossessed by the dealership because he wasn't making payments on it.
Holy shit. What is his credit score?
That's what I'm scared of. I don't know what his credit score is. He doesn't have a credit card. He doesn't have any, like, his only bill is like internet and a phone.
Girl, no, you're okay. So
Listen,
I'm going to just make a conclusion here. Okay. Go ahead. What do you want to say?
Well, I wanted to say, like, there is somebody for him that's also like him where they're not doing anything.
They're 25 years old.
They're not doing anything with, they just are, home watching TV because they can't afford to do stuff. There's people out there like that, but that's not the lifestyle that you want to live.
Okay, hold on. No. This has nothing to do with lifestyle. This has to do with personal responsibility. This person does not sound like they are responsible to get their car repossessed, to be 40 years old and can only afford to take you to breakfast at a diner. This story has gotten progressively worse as you've told it to us. You have not said one redeemable thing about him. So if you're calling in to just get some peace of mind about breaking up with him, I beg you to. I don't see how this gets better if he gets a better job. He will not be able to get a better job because he does not own a car. And I only say this because it sounds like before he needed a car to get to work. It sounds to me, you probably not even in a city that has commutes, right? So he already is not being able to participate fully to his potential.
You're already pausing at the scenario of potentially getting married with him because of this very big issue.
Look, you've been with him for 2 years. You've given enough. I think it's time to let him go. Not everyone deserves to date. And this person certainly has taken a lot from you. He's taken money from you. He's gotten free meals out of you. He's gotten free trips out of you. What have you gotten out of this?
Yeah, not a lot. He did buy me like a cute little pearl ring for my birthday, but I was upset that he spent money on that little birthday present when we were about to go to Montreal for a weekend trip. Because I was like, why wouldn't you spend that money on our trip instead?
I'm just trying to picture you 5 years from now. And the growing resentment that you have right now is going to be...
Oh, it's only going to get worse for the kid.
It's going to be over the top. And, I would find out his credit score. You should be able to be at a point in your relationship where you're comfortable enough talking about your credit scores without it being this contention or this fight,
and it's okay if
right?
your credit score is needs to be improved.
Listen, Maria and I have been there. And you know what our husbands did? they were like, okay, let's fix it. Let's find a way to fix it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, you know, maybe you are that person that could help them. I don't know. Maybe you wouldn't be like, oh, no, but you know, what I want to say is you should be comfortable enough 2 years in to be able to find that out
And have frank conversations
and have
about
frank
money.
conversations about it. Yeah.
Thanks for calling in. We have a few more questions.
Okay. Well, I wish you the
Thank
best. I hope everything's
Yeah.
resolved.
All right, let's take our next caller. Welcome to the Ask a Matchmaker hotline. How can we help you?
Yes, I was just wondering, as a person who's not your usual demographic, 55-year-old divorced woman, single child in college,
Nice.
professional, how do you get back in the dating world? I have been divorced for a while, focused on raising my daughter, did get back in the dating world. The person I was with, it just didn't work after about a year and a half. Now don't feel like getting back in the dating world, but I also want to date. And I know that sounds crazy to want to date and not date at the same time.
No, it
But what
doesn't sound
advice
crazy.
for someone at this age?
I think most people feel the way you feel. And we have women all the time that are 55 and divorced as coaching clients. And we do our, we've been effective in getting them into happy dating experiences and relationships. I think it's just a matter of knowing what the first steps are. I think that's what it is. Like, we think of like the dating world as like this planet, the planet of dating, right? And like, we have to get in the shuttle, but like, do I even have the right spacesuit? And who's going to control the oxygen? Like, there's just like all these, and then it's catastrophic, right? Like, you have these, it's even just me describing it. I feel the pressure in my chest of like, where do I begin? And the way you begin is multifaceted. There's so many ways to begin dating. Before I go into my little pep talk, do you have?
I mean, I agree. I'll give you an anecdote. Like, I had a reaction to the sun last year, and I've never had that before.
The sun?
The sun. Like, I had my body was in hives, and that's never happened to me before. And my dermatologist was like, I was like, why is this happening to me? This has never happened to me before. She's like, okay, but there has to be a moment where it happens, and then we can move on. Like, I was like, oh, okay. And so I think here it's maybe it's a bit of a change of a mindset, which is hard to do, obviously, but you have to start from somewhere. And where do you start? By just starting and just going,
And I'll tell you where those that start line is, okay? Because there's a few ways to get to that start line, right? I'm going to start off this by saying that the regular ways to start, and then I'm going to talk about my company because we have start lines too, right?
Right.
So a really easy way to start is to download an app. So, I think for people over 50, I tend to like Hinge, Bumble, and also Match.com. We've noticed that Match.com, it does attract some, an older demographic, only because those, a lot of those people that dated on Match.com in its heyday are now, divorced and aged up, and they're like, well, I'm going to go with what I know. But, Hinge and Bumble are perfectly fine too. So if you decide to do online dating, one way to pep yourself up for it is to go ask your friend or a professional to take photos of you around town. And that's going to just immediately boost your confidence in having something to put on a profile. Because I think for a lot of people, when they go to start a profile, it's like, where do I even begin with photo selection, right?
Absolutely.
So that's one start for you. The second start for you that you could do is download the Eventbrite app. And Eventbrite has a ton of events, and you don't have to look for single events. You could just look for things that you have an interest in. So maybe, for instance, you have always wanted to learn about real estate investing. There are, in some cities, I've been noticing a lot more real estate investing lectures and info calls or whatever that is. And you can go to that. Or maybe you've always wanted to learn how to distinguish different wines, and you could take like a wine class, so there's different ways to kind of get involved in the community. A third way, another start line is actually going to your community center. So I don't know if you participate in any religion, but even if you don't, your public library, or even like your local city hall, there are certainly municipal events that are non-politics related. And there are also many communities like church, synagogues, mosques, and temples. They also have their own community-based events. And all of these things are also open to new people. And what those kinds of events do is that a lot of them meet up every week. And so I think for a lot of people, it would be helpful to put in that FaceTime every week, even if you're just seeing, like I see it, I go to church every Sunday and I see the same, 200 people every Sunday. And maybe I only interact with them by just saying hello or, how are you, whatever that is. But I've had that face-to-face time and I know that I have them if I need them. But creating that, putting in that time is another start line. And I know everything I just said might seem stressful, but it's just a matter of going. Now, another start line, now I'm going to talk about professionally as professional matchmakers. I think that we have two major start lines.
Yeah.
The first one, as I always mention it in my Instagram, is Agape Intensive.
Yeah. Agape
Intensive is our group coaching program. We usually have 1 or 2 groups every single month. It's usually anywhere between 10 and 15 people. And we basically, I've always thought of it as like resetting your dating mindset, like kind of like a reboot. Like, everything you just said, I think is very typical of the people that sign up in our system. For Agape Intensive, it's just like, I don't know where to start, so I'm going to start here. And I think that is the best starting line. Like for us, it's the best starting line.
And let me tell you what happens afterwards, because afterwards, what we have created is a graduate community, and through WhatsApp, and through there, you'll see, every single day what you're describing. Somebody will go into the chat, and in real time, you have 10, 15 women just responding to you. Pep talks, making you feel good. Hey, I've been there too. This is what I tried and this is working. And it's like this support that I think is really valid, especially, maybe none of your friends are where you are right now and it's hard to communicate.
That's a big piece of it.
Right.
I don't have the wingman that you had in college.
And so so that's what we do, right? Agape Intensive provides you wing women and men.
You want to say, what should I wear? Everybody loves a fashion show and
thing,
if and they boost you up and they make you feel confident and it feels so good. It feels really good, that community, 100%.
And also, like, what city do you live in, right? Like for us, we have, I think, something like 60 subgroups in our community. So we have women in all these different cities who meet up once a month for brunch or for, there's this speed dating event. There were 12 women who went out to see Jared Freed perform his stand-up. And then we had other women do it I think in Buffalo. Like, they all go out with each other and it's just that community. But it's like, that's a starting line for us that we always recommend. And, in terms of ages, it ranges. The youngest we've had is 22, but the oldest we've had is 67.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so, and the advice is it sticks for all of them. Like we've not had someone say, well, this advice doesn't apply to me. Like it's worked out really well.
Right.
Another one that I've always mentioned is, and some women who do intensive, they'll do this too before or after. A lot of them do it after, is and a dating assessment with Louie, who's the other matchmaker on our team. And, a dating assessment is really personalized. So essentially, when you have a phone call with Louie, he'll ask you for your dating history. He'll ask where you're going. And then he's going to create like a dating strategy that is specific to you. Like he's going to call to you to be like, okay, I want you to do this first step. And then I want you to call me back when you do it,
or he'll have you do it right there in real time.
Yeah.
And then you'll see real time results right there. And this just happened right there and then.
Yeah.
And I think having again, another source of support and seeing the results happen in real time is also a confidence booster. You're like, wow, I can do it. It is possible.
So that, this actually just happened 2 days ago. One of our women who did intensive, and she's wonderful. She was like, I'm struggling with the first, like not the first step, but she was like, I feel like I'm not meeting anyone in the city that I live in.
Yeah.
And so she has her assessment with Louie, and she basically says that she's only been on one date in the last 6 months. And he's like, well, wait a second, let's fix that. And he starts coaching her in real time. Okay, do this. He has her open up the app and he's like, do this, and do this. And in that 45 minutes, he was able to get her 3 first dates lined up for the next 5 days.
Yeah.
So now she's going on more dates in 1 week than she has in the last 6 months.
And I think that just made her feel so good. Inside. It made her feel so good inside. And
the best part about that, though, is that one of those 3 canceled. Like, he would end up, changing his mind and unmatched, right? But because she learned how to do it, she used what she called the Louis method. She used that to book her next date, so she would still have 3 dates in those 5 days.
Yeah. And I think because she got that confidence boost, it was easier for her to do that and to be able to secure that 3rd date. But again,
you don't have to, like, I always try to, there's the things like we said in the beginning, like there's things that you can do the starting line on your own, right? You create your own profile. You can go on Eventbrite. You can participate in your own community. But there's also other things that exist too.
I think, caller, one of the things, if you, going out and about, I think something you might want to consider is not, will I meet a man here or whatever, because every person's an opportunity.
Yep.
So I sign up for this photography in the park every Saturday. We go on hikes and we take photos or whatever. And then you keep going every week and there's the same group of people that somebody might know somebody. And it happens a lot. I mean, that's how a lot of people meet people. And so it's just, every person is an opportunity. And I think the mindset can certainly shift that way. It's a small, subtle step that might not feel so overwhelming, because going out in the dating scene, it feels and is overwhelming. But by taking these small, subtle steps, it might be what you need.
Yeah.
And now, if
I just remember meeting the person I used to date on an app, and the idea of having to do all that all over again. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just not.
That's not. I understand that. I totally understand that. I totally understand that. Now, if my husband were here, and I don't think I've ever asked him to give dating advice. Sometimes I have, I guess, but if he were here, he would tell you to join your local backgammon club.
Oh, okay.
Because I challenge, even if you don't know backgammon, they'll be more than happy to teach you. But he belongs to a backgammon club, and I'm like, what's it like? And he's like, the one that I go to is predominantly men over 50.
There you go.
Who are just so happy to play this game, and like just like the community aspect. They meet every other week at some bar to play backgammon. They play like 3 rounds.
And you ladies don't think 55 is too old for Hinge? Because I was going to try Hinge just for something new, and then I just was like, oh my gosh, they're going to think I'm like ancient.
Absolutely not. And absolutely not. I think it's good to test these, right?
Just test it for 2 months.
Hinge might not. You might find success on Tinder. Like it's what you make the app.
Okay.
And so first of all, no one's going to think anything of you. Second, you got this. And I wouldn't put so much weight on your age, because, you are worthy of love. And so, I mean.
Oh, I'm excited for you.
I am really excited for you. Now we're entering the summertime. Oh, this is the best time.
I wish I was as excited. And I'm a good Greek girl, and I don't go to church. And I know that my mother has said to me, oh, you'll never know who you see or might meet or whatever. But you ladies will understand this. After 55 years in the same Greek community, it's almost incestuous.
You got to go to find the church that you had issues with.
Yeah. Start rolling up to every Greek festival in your state.
Oh, we're entering Greek festival season.
Yes. It's May.
Yes.
It's May.
You never know who you might meet on the souvlaki line.
May, June, and July is Greek fest season.
Yes.
Don't even.
So I know that there are steps that I should be taking. It's just, I think the biggest thing has been not only age, but like I said, needing the wingman or someone to go with, so that I'm not just out there. But I think I've got to get over that piece.
Yeah. Sure. Good luck.
Thank you, ladies. I appreciate it.
Okay, we have one last question.
Thanks.
And then I want to talk to you about my house buying journey before you wrap up.
Sounds good.
All right. Welcome to the Ask A Matchmaker hotline. How can we help you?
Hi, hello. So I have never really dated before, and I'm currently almost 29.
Okay.
Started dating recently, and kind of like met this person that I do like, communication style wise and all that, but also felt like I told my family a little too early and they have doubts on a lot of things. And that's kind of like also affecting how I'm seeing this current relationship. And I'm like not sure how you'd go about these type of situations.
Why do they not,
What are their doubts, I suppose you could say?
I'd say one is they are a different nationality, and the second being that he's doing research work rather than like a job that they would think that is a good one.
So, caller, do you care about his ethnicity? Do you care about his research work?
For me, I don't necessarily think so.
So, I think you continue seeing this person and see how it progresses, because your family's not marrying, or your family's not dating them.
I mean, you could even date someone who shares in your ethnicity, and you can even date someone who is a doctor, and there's no guarantee that your parents would like them.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I'm saying is extremely difficult. Obviously, families. It seems like family and their opinion is important to you, and it's important to most people.
Right.
I want my parents to like my partner. I want my parents to because what happens is you envision what does holidays look like?
Right.
What do family vacations look like? What does it look like when I have kids with this person, and how are my parents interacting with them? And I think, I think really, since you're saying you don't have a lot of experience in dating, that's not the issue here. There's no issue here. I think what I would do is continue seeing this person who fulfills me and makes me feel good and is a good partner. He's an excellent communicator, like you said, and see where that goes and take it day by day. Because I think that's your happiness in a relationship is what matters at the end of the day, not whether mom and dad are happy with your relationship. And maybe that causes some contention in the long road, but we don't know that. I don't know what you would say.
I mean, listen, I remember when I met George, he was in research. He worked in academia, and he had a very different pay scale, and now he doesn't. And you also don't know what this person's potential is, and also like what their career aspirations can morph into when their obligations increase with a family and kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just so many unknowns right now. And I think, especially if you didn't have any relationship experience before, it may have created this like vortex of like, okay, well, she's waiting for the right guy. This is not the right guy. Like they have nothing to compare it to.
Right.
And it's like, well, kind of reminds me of someone in our family.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. She would be so upset. She was so upset about who her daughter was dating. And I remember thinking that, like, I remember asking her, like, well, who did you want her to date? Like this person, he has like a job in the trades. He's a very present person. He's a good person. And I think he's actually a really great match for this person that he's dating. And her mother was like, I just expected her to date a doctor. Like she was just so hell-bent on this man being a doctor and not, let's say a plumber. And he's not a plumber, but it's certainly in the similar trade. And I just remember thinking like, well, how would she have met this doctor?
I think you should just YOLO, live your own life and if you're happy, honestly, that's what matters right now.
Right.
That's literally what matters.
Do you feel supported?
Because your parents might come around, but like, I know that what I'm saying is difficult. It's not easy hearing this. Do you live with your parents?
Currently not, but I'm really close with them. So
okay, so that's good. It provides a little bit of a barrier where you're not
it can be hard, but also you don't know if this is this is, from what I'm gathering, like your first relationship. You don't even know if this is a forever relationship.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to put so much weight on something that has a lot of unknowns right now. Like you know what I mean? And I think they're also putting a lot of weight on something that has a lot of unknowns.
Mm-hmm.
But you're also learning now that if there's a future guy, maybe don't tell your parents too quick.
Yeah. Get married, have a kid, and then tell them.
Hard
What are you
launch
going to do
on-
then?
hard launch a family
What
on
are you
that.
going to do?
This is a great question, though, and I appreciate you calling in.
Best of luck. YOLO, okay?
Thank you.
All right. So yesterday I closed on a house.
Yes. It's been a long time
Thank
coming.
you.
Clap,
It
clap,
has been a
clap.
long. I gotta tell you, I
First of all, can I just say, I don't even know how you're functioning right now because I'm visiting with my kids and my little one is a lot. And you just closed on the house and we're working. We took on like 4 new clients this last week.
6.
So 6 new clients. And Maria closed on the house and she's hosting Easter and she's packing to move. And we have a conference next
And we're
week.
doing this right now.
And we have this today. And we have a conference next week
that I'm speaking at.
that you're speaking at. I'm like, how are you? You're just running on adrenaline. I don't
Yeah.
even know how you're doing that. Just one of these events would be too much for me and I would have to take a break
And I'm
for 2
hosting
weeks.
a Eurovision party
Oh,
next
and you're
Saturday.
hosting. Oh, so Eurovision party next week. Vote for Greece. I don't know. I don't even know how you're literally awake right now.
I don't know either, but like anything in my life, I take it one day at a time.
Well, 50 projects a
Just
day at a
lot
time.
of spinning plates. What's funny is that there are people in our community, like at church, who don't realize I have a lot of spinning plates. So they'll be talking to me and like, Maria, when can we meet this week for coffee? And I'm like,
That's funny. You think I have
I was
available?
like, maybe September. And that's actually what I've had to start doing. People have been emailing me for things. Like someone's like, oh, can you come on my podcast? And I'm like, I can at the end of September. I'm not even trying to like, I already have like I'm going to be on.
P.S. We have 2 trips in Greece in less than 2 months.
Yeah. I'm
already stressed.
And anyway, so I'm fine.
I'm fine. Everything's fine. It's like
Everything's
burning
fine,
behind
the
you.
burning building. But anyway, all right. So one of the things that I have noticed in my home buying journey is how similar looking for a house is to looking for a spouse.
How?
All right. So here's the thing. Let me take a step back. That
One part of it is, credit score. You're right.
and you know what? You mentioned credit scores before. Like, so when I was in college, something happened and my identity got stolen. I've gotten it back, thank God. But my credit score one day was 330.
Who wanted to live a life with Maria Avgitidis as a last name?
They probably gave it up. They took out one bill. They took out one bill for $35.
This name's too hard.
And 5 years later, I came back to the States after college and I was like, why is my credit score 330? And I called whoever you're supposed to call. And they're like, you have a Capital One bill from 2003. And I'm like, it's 2008. They're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, who took that? What?
Why are you ruining my life?
Why are you ruining my life? So that took a long time to, I couldn't even get certain jobs because, like certain jobs, they ask for your social security and run a credit check.
Yeah, that's
And
ridiculous.
it was like rough, a lot of crying. Yeah. And you could prove like, I didn't take this out. I don't live in this state and it didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And what an injustice. Anyway, and now my credit score is an 807 and George's is an 808. So we were ready to buy. Okay. So, as you know, because we have the same mom and dad,
do we? Wait, do we have the same mom too?
I don't know if you're setting me up for a joke, but anyway, but as you know, we have the same parents and, like mom is in a wheelchair and, she has other mobility obstacles.
Yeah.
And in being one of the people who cares for her, it was really important for both me and my husband to find a house that could was multi-generational, that could fit them as well. And not just fit them like, oh, here's one room for you, for both of you, because no, mom is in a medical bed and dad is in his own
couch bed
because he refuses to have a normal bed.
That's a different conversation.
That's a different conversation for a different episode. Anyway,
talk to us another time about that.
about unique sleeping arrangements. Yeah. Anyway, and so that was a big part of it, and also my dad's really independent, so he wanted his own kitchen. It was all these things, and
yeah, it makes sense.
When we started our home, they also don't want to be in your space. Yeah, they also are even when they don't even come upstairs to our space without asking all these years. There's definitely some boundaries and stuff. But anyway, 4 years ago, before the pandemic, George and I were like, okay, let's move in with mom and dad and just figure out what's happening healthcare wise.
And
in
that
the
was
process,
before all the stuff happened with mom when you guys moved in.
yeah, but we knew. You remember it was like getting bad. Like we were
It
kind
was
of preparing.
getting bad, but I don't think you could have imagined.
No,
like,
I could not imagine the life I have
this.
now.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, we are going to look for a house, and we had our money ready and like ready to go. And then the pandemic happens, and suddenly in the beginning, like the first couple of months, like nobody was selling. Like I think it was just kind of like a lot of things were happening at once, and I was like super pregnant.
Yeah.
So we weren't even looking at houses at that moment. But then we were ready, right? Like in September 2020, we're like, okay, we've got a real estate agent. Let's look for houses. And at that time, the interest rates were really low. And we started looking at houses. And I remember we found one house. It did not have an in-law suite, but it had like a double garage, which we had someone show us how they can convert it into like a 2-bedroom in-law suite with like a kitchenette. And we're like, okay, it's going to cost this much. So here we go. And we actually won that bid, but then an inspection, the house had some really severe structural issues, which were that would have taken all of our in-law budget away, would have evaporated it. And I was like, well, house is not for us. And I remember crying. But then a year after that, so now we're in 2022, we find the most beautiful, I mean, at that time, up until a month ago, I called that the dream house.
Yeah.
Right. And I love this house. I thought it was just really wonderful. I remember I wrote a letter to the person and she had listed it for X amount of money. And I think she was hoping that people would like do a bidding war. But because this house actually already had an in-law apartment with a kitchenette, there aren't a lot of people who are looking for this.
Yeah.
Like, and I know who they are because I tend to see them at the same open houses.
Right.
So it's like the same 15 families, I suppose. That need like an accessible, like ADA in-law suite. So we found this house. We loved it. We put an offer and we were the only offer.
Right.
And then she decides, I guess she expected for there to be a bidding war, but there wasn't, of course, because we met her at what she listed it for. And then she decided, I'm not going to sell it. I'm going to rent it. And I just remember being devastated. This was 2 years ago in April 2022. And I just remember crying. I was just like, because this was like another house. And then after that, we started looking at other houses. And again, we went back to like, we'll convert a 2-car garage.
Yeah.
But every time we went, it would always be like outbids. And I'll never forget in June of 2023, we saw another house in a beautiful town that we wanted. And I remember saying to my husband, let's go in 25,000 over. And we really thought like, we're going to win this bid because we're going from the start from like open house was on a Sunday. On Monday, we were like, here's our offer within 12 hours, 25,000 over. This house it had a 30-year-old roof, a 30-year HVAC system, and a 30-year septic tank. Like it
came with baggage.
It came with a lot of structural issues. And we were willing. We were like, we can do this. We can do this. That house sold for $150,000 over asking. So that was last June. And I remember crying and like being upset. You know, George and I got into a stupid fight. Like it was just dumb stuff, you know, because you're
upset. Yeah.
And each time that we would lose a bid, I would delete the Zillow app. It's I think like when people go on like a bad date, you're like, fuck Hinge, and like you delete the app. And then every time that I would put an offer in, you know, to put an offer on a house, especially when you think about like you're moving your parents along with you and also you have young kids that you plan to raise, you actually have to sit and visualize a future because you're about to make the biggest purchase of your life. You can't just be like, well, let's just throw a bid on this and not think about it. Like, you know, YOLO it. You're not going to do that to your real estate agent either, you know? Yeah. And I remember every time I think we made like 8 bids in the last 4 years. 2, we were the highest. Those houses picked the people right below us because they had waived inspection. And I'll never forget, I remember going to a wedding a year and a half ago saying, oh, we just lost this house because, you know, they waived inspection, which anytime I heard that they would waive inspection, I thought, okay, you know what? That made me less sad because I felt like, oh my gosh, I dodged a bullet. Because if you're waiving inspection,
why are they picking the person that waived inspection over the person that is offering more?
Right. Yeah. Like one house that we lost, they picked someone who offered them $30,000 less. And I just thought to myself, wow, like what? Like what issues does this house have that you were willing to go as is versus with an inspection? So, so to me, I was like, okay, you know, that's fine. And then last June, I was just so upset. I was like, this housing market sucks. There's no houses in New Jersey, like especially houses that are built for like a big family. You know, we're 6 people, you know, and one of us, me, works from home. So I try to predominantly at home. So I try to like make it comfortable. And and then there were other houses. We saw so many houses. We've seen like 50 houses. A lot of houses that said that they were like in-law suite. The hallways were not ADA accessible. So I was like, a wheelchair does not fit through this hallway.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter that it has an in-law suite if I can't roll my mom down a hallway.
Yeah.
And so it was always like these issues. We saw so many houses. And then it just so happened that I had a really great day on March 15th of this year. I had a great day. And I don't want to mention why I had a great, but I just had a great day. And I thought to myself, man, I have had a great day. Let me ruin it by downloading Zillow. So I download the Zillow app and I just put in a town, just like looking up nearby and suddenly like this house appears and I'm just kind of going through it. And I was like, this is a really nice house. Like, and then as I keep going through, I was like, oh my God, it has everything we've ever wanted in a house with a brand new roof, a brand new HVAC system, a brand new chimney, a brand new, brand new appliances. I don't think this family was intending to sell. I think, from what I gather, the seller got a job offer in a different country that was just too good to pass, and they're moving.
Mm-hmm.
So this house was like perfect condition with an in-law apartment.
Yeah.
And in a great town, like Blue Ribbon Town, I was like, George, look at this house. And George goes, we should go see it. And I go, oh, please. Because this house was just above what we could afford. It was $15,000 above what we could afford. And I said, please, if we go to this house, you know it's going to sell for like $50,000 over. Like we can't even afford it now.
Hasn't the landscape kind of changed though? Like
no.
people are still outbidding.
There was a house that just went for sale for $400,000 over in Maplewood last week. So anyway, so George is like insisting. He's like, no, let's just go see it. Let's just go see it. You don't know. Just because they listed it for that doesn't mean anything. So we went, we fell in love. And we were both like, I don't know if we should why even bother putting an offer? We're not going to win. And then we thought about it for 5 days. Which by the way, you never think about in this market for 5 days. Like if you're going to put an offer, you do it the same day.
Yeah.
How it is. But we waited for 5 days and we just couldn't get over this house. And we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, look, we can't afford what they're asking, but we can afford this, which is just $15,000 below. Let's just put it in. Let's just see what happens. And I actually happened to run into the seller right before we put in our offer. I accidentally left my purse in their house and I had to go back and get it. And I got to meet her and I just asked her like a few more questions about the neighborhood or whatever. She was really nice. She was actually a very nice person. And anyway, they accepted our offer. There was apparently another family that was going at listing or maybe just above, and they accepted ours. And I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, whoa. And then it just kind of made me think about the first month I met George. So I remember right before I met my husband, I had some very weird relationships 2 years prior. Like in those 2 years, from 2010 to the end of 2012, when I met George, I had relationships that it would go for like 2 or 3 months. I would start to visualize our future and I'm like about to go all in. Like I'd be falling in love. And then one of them ghosted me. One of them, like we broke up and it was just awful. Like, and I remember crying with one guy, like just being so heartbroken and crying and saying, I know this sounds pathetic right now, but I was like, God, why are you doing this to me? Like, stop hurting me. Like I felt so hurt, you know? And I don't know. I was just like, I was just really upset.
Why does God hate me?
Why does God hate me? And then I remember meeting George and I remember writing in my diary. Yes, I still keep one of those. like 3 weeks into meeting him, I could just tell like, oh, this guy's different. And I wrote, like I wrote something to the effect of like, one day you'll meet someone and you'll realize why it never worked with anyone else. And that feeling of writing that, I felt that yesterday when we got the keys to the house and I'm finally walking into the sellers cleaned the house and landscaped it before we came in, which 5 stars to them, 5-star sellers. So we go into the house and I'm walking up the stairs, like towards the kids' new rooms and whatever. And I had that same feeling of like, oh my gosh, all those other houses that we lost, even when we were the highest bids, or even when that one didn't pass inspection or whatever, you know, this is a house that's way better than all those other houses. Like it has everything I've ever wanted. This is why it worked out. And I know that sounds like stupidly hopeful, but like if anyone's listening, and I think a lot of people, I've talked about my home buying journey all these years on my podcast, and I posted that photo yesterday on my Instagram of like, we have the keys, and you know, the last time I checked it has like 4,000 likes, which I thought only like 300 people would like it, like, you know, people that we know at church or something. And a lot of the comments are like, oh my God, I know how long you've been looking.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. Like we have been looking. Oh, the other crazy thing that happened too is trying to lock in the rate, which I know there's no dating metaphor to this, but I was trying to lock in the rate, and thank God we locked in, because the next day it jumped up to like 7.2 or something. It was just like, I'm like, oh my God, like if we waited 24 hours, we would not be able to afford this house. So I feel really happy. On a political level, I'm moving to Somerset County, and my town is represented by Congressman Kane, who he's got now 4 Democrats voting in our household. So hopefully we can flip that district back to blue.
I mean, you know, when I, before we sold our house, I remember vividly when we bought our house, me and Yanni just going in, and like there was no furniture there, and just laying down on the floor and just holding hands and thinking like, oh my God, like we did it.
Right.
And, you know, and then you work so hard to get there. And there's just a sense of real pride in yourself. And well, how do you relate that to relationships? Well, it was like, yeah, we worked hard. I worked hard on myself, on all the things that I had to do. And I feel proud here, and I feel proud with this. So I remember when we sold our house to the sellers, there were a younger couple than us. And the last thing I said to them was like, you know, enjoy. I'm like, you know, this is the house I got married. This is where I had my first child. I raised them for first almost 2 years in that house. Like this is like a house with a lot of really, really
Love.
significant in like moments in my life, and very much like a lot of love here. And I really hope that you have the same experience. And, you know, it's true. I mean, it's, you signed your whole life away, so you better make it worth it, Maria, you know?
Yeah. And then I met the seller yesterday because she gave us the keys, and she said, I knew you were going to be the buyer because you left your purse here. And in her culture, that's a good sign. Apparently, she was saying like, I called my husband and he said like, I hope they're the buyers, because she's like, it wasn't an accident. Like,
yeah, it's all the moving. It wasn't an accident. You guys moved,
and
you know.
She we hugged each other. She put up a nice little sign that said like, welcome home. When I got, oh my God, I'm gonna start crying. I was just like, and she raised her kids in that house.
Yeah, it's she saw you and she said, I hope they have the same loving experience that I did. Like I totally can relate to that, you know. And
I think I also just want to add one other thing. Like I could have found a house a lot faster if I didn't have to care for mom and dad. Right?
Yeah.
Obviously I could have, like this was like a big, that was the biggest obstacle.
Even without the care of mom, like, you know, Baba is a very big part of your life. You know,
Right.
he takes kids to school, picks them up. He has them a lot, you know, and, you know, he relies on you for that because he psychologically needs that, I think.
Yeah, no,
But
what I'm
you
trying to
also,
say is
you
that like
know,
another family that was in
another
our
family,
scenario
yeah.
could have gotten a house, I think, quicker. That was not the case for me. And I think to me, this also relates to like, I hear a lot of single parents who call in and I'm like, you're right. Dating would be easier if you didn't have kids, but that's not your reality. You do have kids. So now we're going to have to date with the reality, and maybe it takes a little longer to find the right person. but like, holy shit, can it be worth it when you do, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been supportive of me and George in this journey. And I'm just so happy that I can still give my parents access to dignity in their life and like in elder care. I think for both me and George, it wasn't enough to like have a good school district for our kids. It was equally important for us to give our parents like dignity in their elder age and like quality of life and, you know, quality family time. And I feel like we're able to do that now. So I'm just so excited. I can't believe you're here while this is happening, by the way.
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm
We
not
have to
really
clean
sure.
up the attic with all the crap you've left before you moved to Greece.
First of all, there's probably just a bag. Relax. We were on top of things.
Anyway, well, listen, I loved having you on this week's episode. I wish you would come more often from Greece so we can
I'll be
do
here in
this.
September probably, right?
Yeah, September. We're hosting an intensive in Nashville. Registration will be opening up in June.
How
so that's gonna be
exciting.
great.
Get your cowboy boots and let's knock this out. Is that what they say there?
I don't know. I have no idea. I've never been to Nashville, but I'm excited to go.
Me neither. I'm excited. I don't like country music. Is that taboo to say? I'm sorry. I hate it.
The birthplace.
Should I not?
Of Justin Timberlake. All right. Well, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for
and
having
of course, if you want more of me and my sister Chrisoula, we do host Agape Intensive every month. I'll include a link in the show notes. We are sold out for May. I know we have a group in June. We have possibly a group opening up at the end of August.
Yes.
And we have our in-person group in Nashville, and we'll be releasing our fall dates somewhere in the summer too.
Yep.
Yeah. So excited.
Come on over.
Come on over. That's all. Be lovable, but more importantly, be likable. See you next week.